ask about recycling because it's obvious with paper recycling how that can be, reproduced. But with all the plastic that we are recycling and putting out, is it being recycled?
Yes.
It is,
Yep.
Plastic is recyclable.
Yep. In fact, we had a visit. We went on a visit to what was called an MRF, a materials recycling facility near Ipswich, a couple of weeks ago. Myself and Bob went, and my fellow district councillor, and extraordinary conditions the workers work in. But apart from that, yes, it's all neatly sorted, baled up, and they were saying that over 90% of what went into the plant ended up being recycled. And we saw it all baled up: plastic, paper, cardboard, other materials, because it's valuable. I mean, it's worth money.
I was just getting concerned that we buy so many goods with all the plastic.
There are some types of plastics which can't be. I mean, particularly the thin film and some other oil-based materials like polystyrene are difficult. But your milk cartons, that type of stuff, that can be. And in fact, increasingly they'll now recycle complex materials as well, like Tetra Paks. I mean, as well as the arguments about recycling and all the contracts, of course, another angle is for manufacturers to stop producing stuff which can't be recycled, because the more complex they make it, the more difficult it is to separate out and to put back into economically useful purpose.
Exactly. I work at the college, where they're trying to look at, ideas. And I just thought the food through the canteens, and we've got trainee chefs producing food, and it's all taken away in plastic polystyrene quite often, and it has to be put in a bin. We haven't got anywhere for it to be put for recycling, and that's on a daily basis. That's quite a lot. That's one small college in the scheme of things.
Well, on the food, I mean, that's an area which we've been pushing for a long time, is that we'd like to see recycling plants and medium-sized anaerobic digestion plants, as they're called, in all the towns, or it wouldn't actually be in the town centre, obviously be in industrial estates, in Essex, so that your waste would be taken locally. And food waste is a big issue. We did a survey recently on this in Braintree district, and over 30% of what's going into the black bins is food waste. That's a very high proportion. Of course, it's also dense and it weighs a lot, and it produces a lot of carbon dioxide and methane when it goes into landfill. County Council, their policy is, yes, they'd like to have AD, but they want one contract, which of course the only people who are going to do that are your big multinationals. There's a chap in Halstead who we've spoken to who wants to build an AD plant for Braintree district, but County won't talk to him because he can't supply the contract for the whole of Essex. So it's another way in which they're using their power to make sure that local entrepreneurs and local solutions are squashed right from the start. And their behaviour is extraordinary, because it's also unsustainable, because of course if that stuff's taken up to Halstead, the maximum it's got to go is 10-15 miles, where if it's taken all the way down to Basildon, was that way, that's where they want it taken, it's got to go a lot further.
Yeah, and then that's part of a whole much broader issue. I spend a lot of time about the need for strong local economies. And that means you need small businesses, you need cooperatives, you need to be growing food, you need to be making things, you need to be dealing with the waste at the other end, and all of those things need to happen, not 100% locally, but much more things need to happen locally, and associated with all of those things are jobs. And that's what we so desperately need. We were talking a lot as we were going around this afternoon about how so many people here commute, and how much we desperately need local jobs, so that you create strong communities where people are around during the day, where there's the services are available locally. And my classic example of this is the £1 bag of apples. You go down to Sainsbury's or Tesco or whoever and buy that £1 bag of apples, and maybe a couple of pence of it stays here locally in Witham, and with the minimum wage worker who's serving the 4 self-service tills, but most of it just swooshes off to headquarters, or quite often ends up in a tax haven somewhere offshore after that. But if you go and buy that £1 bag of apples from the local greengrocer, then she employs a local accountant to do her books every year. When she needs some new shelves, she doesn't do what Tesco or Sainsbury's does and get the national contractor in. She gets a local builder to come and build some shelves for her. She uses a local childminder. You know, you have money going round and round in the local economy built around small local businesses. Whereas if you build everything on those big multinationals, you've got lots and lots of low-wage jobs, lots of casual jobs, the obscenity of 0 hours contracts, and alternatively, you have anyone who wants a job different from that has to whoosh off to London.
I thought Natalie's made a very interesting point, which I'd not really thought about deeply. I've heard her say it many times on interviews, was if one of the reasons why we've got such a big benefits bill is actually there's a lot of the working poor, who actually are the majority of people who get benefits, aren't earning enough money to live. So they have to go to the government to get benefits instead of the companies they're working for paying them a decent wage in the first instance. So the state is effectively subsidising a lot of these big companies.
Yeah, it's what I call corporate welfare. And you know, the people who are getting housing benefit, getting family tax credit so they can basically live, it's not really for them. It's actually for the companies who aren't paying them a living wage.